My in-laws left for a luxury spa retreat, insulting me for not being classy enough to join them, forcing me to sleep in their dusty basement. While I was crying, my brother-in-law's fiancée texted me, "Don't trust them. They're planning to frame you." The next day, I set my trap. I stared at him, standing in the middle of his parents' granite and glass kitchen, the place that echoed with the sound of designer loafers and shallow laughter. They called me uncultured. Told me the spa didn't have room for people who don't understand elegance. "You left with them, Cole. You left me in the basement." He sighed. "They sprung it on me. I didn't want to cause drama." That moment, his cup steaming in his hands, mine going cold in front of me, was the last time I thought I'd try to convince him. I've always known I wasn't a cross. I married into the family after meeting Cole at a journalism conference in Milwaukee. He was sharp, self-deprecating, and for a while, refreshingly uninterested in the pomp of his lineage. But once we were married, and he took me to visit his parents' place in Aspen, everything shifted. It wasn't just a home. It was a compound. Modern, minimal, sterile in the way that only extremely rich people pull off, like no one actually lived there, just passed through on the way to somewhere more important. Sylvia Cross, my mother-in-law, wore linen blouses and looked at me like I was tracking in mud. Martin Cross asked me once if I'd ever even been skiing. Celeste, Cole's older sister, ran a luxury holistic practice in LA and posted daily wellness reels where she sipped green juice in a bikini and gave advice like "don't chase, vibrate higher." And then there was Mireille, quiet, observant, never fully locking eyes with anyone unless she trusted them. She was Callum's fiancée, and the only person in the house who didn't make me feel like I was a waitress who'd accidentally sat at the VIP table. The moment they told me I wasn't coming to the spa in Telluride, it wasn't even disguised as a question. "We've made a reservation for 6, Sylvia said, folding a silk scarf with military precision. "It's very tailored. They serve caviar blinis in the morning. You might not enjoy the ambience." They had the gall to act like they were doing me a favor. Martin chuckled, said someone needed to keep the house warm. "The basement's got that pull-out. You'll be cozy." Cole looked from them to me and said, "I'll stay back," but Sylvia tilted her head. "Oh, Cole. You're joining. Callum's expecting you. Family." He didn't argue for long. His father clapped him on the shoulder and said something about family obligation. And just like that, they were gone. The basement smells like cedar chips and old paint. It was a dumping ground for holiday decorations and rejected furniture. I made a bed out of the futon and a pile of questionable quilts that smelled like they hadn't been touched since Bush was in office. I tried to pretend it was an Airbnb. For the first day, I kept myself busy. Cooked pasta. Took a long walk along the back of the property, where the snow was untouched and the silence swallowed my thoughts. I messaged Cole once, and asked if he got there safely. He replied a few hours later, "Yeah, it's nice. Hope you're relaxing too." That night, I cried for a long time. Not because of the cold, or the creaky floorboards, or the faint sense of mildew, but because I had never felt so thoroughly discarded. Not just by his family, but by Cole. My husband. The man who once said I made him feel like himself. The next evening, I was curled up with my laptop trying to ignore the sense of betrayal curdling in my gut when I saw the message notification. "Mireille, don't trust them. They're planning to frame you." At first, I thought it was a mistake. Or a joke. My heart punched in my chest. I stared at her name, reread it 3 times. Then, another message. "Check the upstairs study. Right cabinet. Hidden drawer. Do it tonight. Before they get back." I didn't even question it. Something about her tone, the urgency, the lack of fluff, made my limbs move before I had time to think. I'd seen the study once. Celeste had been showing off the heritage design of the place, all walnut and brass, boasting about how their father kept the original Hemingway first editions on the shelf. The study was locked from the inside, but I remembered something odd from earlier that day. The laundry room window, the one tucked behind the hedges, was missing a latch. I'd opened it slightly that morning when the musty smell was too much to bear. Maybe. It took me 10 minutes to wriggle out through the side door, crawl under the hedge, and lift the window. My jeans are torn at the knee. My palms stung from gravel. But I got inside. The study was cold, untouched, smelling faintly of bourbon and antique leather. Right cabinet. Hidden drawer. I opened the cabinet. Nothing unusual. I ran my fingers along the underside, and felt a small bump. Pressed. A click. The drawer slid out an inch. Inside was a manila envelope labeled with my name, Madeline. I hesitated. My breath steamed in the cold room. Then I opened it. What I found chilled me more than the snow outside. Inside the envelope were photographs. Dozens of them. Me, in the Cross's kitchen. Me, carrying a bag of groceries. Me, on my laptop, looking distracted. Each photo had a date and time stamp printed in the bottom corner, like they were evidence in a case I didn't know I was involved in. Then there were printouts of emails that looked like they came from my address. But they weren't mine. I never wrote them. The language was just slightly off. There were inquiries about transferring funds, mentions of Swiss accounts, conversations with a bank I had never contacted. They made it look like I was preparing to siphon money. Underneath all of that was a single page marked Backup Narrative Madeline Morgan. Me. The page outlined some kind of contingency story. A family guest was caught manipulating finances while house-sitting. The phrasing was sterile, corporate, like they were ready to spin it to protect themselves from a PR nightmare. It included instructions on how to report me without triggering an internal review of the family trust. They weren't just trying to discredit me. They were going to accuse me of theft. I sat there for a long time, barely breathing. The house was dead quiet. Every tick of the wall clock made me flinch. Eventually, I backed away from the cabinet and closed everything exactly as I'd found it. I retraced my steps out through the laundry window, trembling with cold and adrenaline. The snow outside had begun to fall again, lightly this time, but I hardly noticed. My mind was on fire. Back in the basement, I locked the door and pulled my knees to my chest on the futon. My phone buzzed. Mireille, did you find it? Me, yes. All of it. Mireille, good. I'll help you. But you need to trust me now. The next morning, I took inventory of what little I had, my phone, my laptop, a couple of spare clothes, and the crumbling dignity of someone who'd been treated like a piece of trash left at the curb. I uploaded photos of the documents to an encrypted drive. I took screenshots. I even filmed a video of myself explaining the discovery in case anything happened to me. And I began planning. Mireille called later that afternoon. Her voice was soft, measured. She told me she'd overheard Sylvia and Celeste in the steam room at the spa. They were laughing about how easy it was and how Cole would come to his senses once the wrongdoing dropped. I don't think even Callum knows, she whispered. But Celeste said you'd be out of the picture within the month. That they had all the proof they needed. I asked her why she was helping me. There was a long pause. Then she said, because I was almost you. She told me about an ex, another high-profile family. Different coast, same cruelty. She'd been pushed out, discredited, nearly ruined. They think people like us are disposable. Background noise. Until we bite back. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. Just drifted in and out of rest, mind spinning like a top. When the Crosses returned the next day, they were tanned and glowing from hot stone massages and forest bathing. Sylvia greeted me with an arched brow and a flat smile. Oh, you survived down here. Good. Martin said nothing, just nodded as he passed. Celeste looked at my sweatshirt, her lips curling. Cozy. Cole didn't meet my eyes. I nodded, said nothing, and poured myself a glass of water with the calm of someone who had already lit the fuse. That night, Miri texted again. "Miri, can you get a camera in the study? We need footage of them opening that drawer. Something they can't erase." I stared at the phone. Me, yes. Give me one day. The next morning, while everyone was out for family brunch, I went into town. I told Cole I needed fresh air. He didn't ask questions. I bought a basic nanny cam from a tiny electronics store near the edge of town. Told the clerk it was for my cousin's baby shower. When I got back, the house was quiet again. Everyone had gone shopping in downtown Aspen. It gave me a 2-hour window. I slid into the study, opened the same window again for consistency, and installed the cam above the bookcase, angled just enough to catch the cabinet drawer and anyone opening it. The feed was connected to my laptop, backed up in real time. Everything was set. All I had to do was wait. Later that night, during dinner, Miri casually mentioned that Callum was curious about family finances. "He's been asking about the trust," she said, stabbing a piece of asparagus. "I want to understand how things work before the wedding." Sylvia's fork paused halfway to her mouth. "Really?" she said too smoothly. I think he said something about wanting to check out the old estate documents." Martin's eyes flicked toward Celeste, then down at his wine. Celeste gave a tight smile. "Well, if he's curious, he'll need a lot of context." Miri nodded. "He's planning to take a look at the study tomorrow." I didn't sleep that night. Just sat at my laptop in the basement, refreshing the feed every few minutes, watching the empty study on my screen. At exactly 1:48 a.m., I saw movement. The door creaked open. Callum stepped inside, barefoot and squinting. Behind him, Miri whispered something, guiding him to the right cabinet. He opened it. Felt underneath. Click. Drawer open. I saw his face change when he saw the folder. His brows pulled together. Miri leaned over his shoulder. Her expression didn't shift, like she knew exactly what was coming. She picked up the folder and flipped it open. The camera caught all of it. Every page. Every word. Then Callum stood frozen as she slowly closed it and placed it back. "I think you should talk to your brother," she said quietly. They didn't say anything to me the next morning. Not directly. But the air was thick. Charged. Something had changed. Cole looked like he hadn't slept. Sylvia barely acknowledged me at breakfast. Celeste kept checking her phone like she was waiting for bad news. I knew I was almost there. Almost ready. And now, I was done playing their game. That morning, I dressed with intention. Not in anything dramatic, just a fitted sweater, clean jeans, boots that didn't crunch with old snow. I combed my hair, tied it back, and looked in the mirror until I could meet my own eyes again. Then I walked upstairs, calmly, and made myself a cup of coffee in the kitchen like it was my house, too. No one said a word to me. Cole was reading something on his tablet, but I could see his knuckles clenched where he gripped the edge. Miri gave me a nearly invisible nod when our eyes met across the counter. Callum was the only one who looked directly at me, confused, maybe even ashamed, but not yet ready to speak. The real tension didn't arrive until late afternoon, when Sylvia stormed into the house, frost on her scarf and rage in her eyes. She'd apparently gone out to the spa again with Celeste for a quick lymphatic massage, and something had shifted while she was gone. She called Cole into the sunroom. Her voice wasn't raised, but it carried a sharp murmur through glass. I couldn't make out words, only tone. Cold. Urgent. Commanding. I stayed in the kitchen. Miri joined me after a while, slowly peeling an orange, keeping her voice low. "She knows," she whispered. "Or she suspects. Celeste must have said something." "What about Martin?" I asked. Miri's lips tightened. "Martin follows Sylvia. He won't move unless it threatens him directly." "What about Cole?" I asked again, quieter this time. That's when she finally looked at me, not evasively, not gently, but straight. "I think he wants to believe the version of you that makes his life easier," she said. "Not the one that complicates things." That night, the house felt like it was on a precipice. Cole stayed in the guest room. No conversation. No apology. Just a closed door. I sat in the basement with my laptop open, rewatching the footage. Callum's expression as he read through the folder. Mireille beside him, steady, calm. Everything had been recorded perfectly. No room for denial. It wasn't just about protecting myself anymore. It was about exposing them. I emailed the footage to myself again, this time with a separate encrypted link to a secure cloud. I drafted a message with a note to Cole. Just in case I needed to send it. But I haven't yet. Not until I saw what they would do next. The next morning was when the unraveling began. It started with Sylvia cornering Mireille in the upstairs hallway. The walls were thin. I heard most of it. "You're not part of this family yet," Sylvia hissed. "You don't get to stir up trouble between brothers." "I didn't stir anything," Mireille replied, her voice calm but unshakable. "I just encouraged Callum to be curious." "Is that threatening to you?" There was a pause. Then Sylvia's tone shifted, sickly sweet. "We've all worked very hard to maintain our privacy, Mireille. And I would hate for you to misunderstand our intentions." Intentions. That word sat in my gut like a rock. That evening, Mireille came down to the basement while I was reading. She didn't knock. Just sat beside me on the futon and exhaled slowly. "They're accelerating something," she said. "Celeste just took a call and used the phrase damage control. I think they're planning to stage the discovery soon. Maybe plant something." My pulse quickened. "What do we do?" She looked at me. "We let them try." I barely slept. Again. By morning, I was vibrating with unease. Cole still hadn't said anything, and I could feel his withdrawal like a wall I kept running into. Part of me hoped he'd come to his senses. That he'd ask the right questions. But the truth was, he wasn't ready. Around noon, I heard Celeste's voice in the hallway outside the study. Light, sing-song, like she was performing casual curiosity. "Dad, did you say you needed those old tax folders?" Then the door clicked. I opened my laptop. The feed came to life. There she was. In the study. Opening the cabinet. Moving with the precision of someone who'd done this before. Martin joined her a moment later. Then Sylvia. The three of them crowded around the folder. They didn't look surprised when they saw the papers. They looked rehearsed. Sylvia pulled something from her coat, an envelope. They swapped it. Removed mine. Replaced it with a cleaner, sleeker version. Then they shut the drawer and walked out. I downloaded the footage immediately. That night, Callum came to the basement. He didn't knock either. Just opened the door and sat on the edge of the futon. "I saw what they did," he said. "I watched the footage. Mireille showed me everything. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. I had no idea," he continued. "I mean, I knew they were manipulative. But this? Setting you up like a criminal?" He looked genuinely gutted. "They made it look like you were stealing from the trust. The new file has fake wire transfer approvals, even digital signatures. If I hadn't seen the original, I would have believed it." I finally spoke. "Do you think Cole believes it?" He hesitated. "I don't know." That silence said everything. The next morning, things came to a quiet, unnerving standstill. Cole still hadn't approached me. Not to ask questions. Not to talk. Nothing. He floated around the house like a man trying not to disturb the air. I caught him staring at me once, long, like he was trying to read a language he didn't speak anymore. But when I met his eyes, he looked away. The silence hurt more than the insults. Sylvia and Martin were locked in some kind of damage control mode. I saw them making phone calls from the library, speaking in vague, coded terms. She won't push back. It's already handled. Just need to align the story. They didn't say my name, but I knew. Every pause, every cautious glance, every muttered word. It all pointed toward me. Celeste avoided me completely. Which was fine. She'd always worn a plastic smile around me, like someone faking good manners at a charity luncheon. Callum, on the other hand, had become a shadow with purpose. He moved quietly through the house, listening. Observing. At one point, I found him standing in the hallway outside the study with his hand on the doorknob, as if debating whether to go in and tear it all down or just walk away and pretend it wasn't real. Mireille stayed calm. Always calm. Like she'd already calculated every possible move 10 steps ahead. I asked her once if she was scared. No, she said softly. I'm angry. And when I'm angry, I don't get reckless. I'm getting ready. Later that afternoon, I walked into the kitchen to make tea and found Cole already there. He was stirring sugar into his coffee, something he never used to do. Something about that little change made my chest tighten. He didn't look at me. I talked to my parents, he said quietly. I said nothing. They're claiming you tried to access the family trust. That you were planning something. His voice faltered. I watched him. Waited. They showed me printouts. Emails. Bank inquiries. He turned then, finally. His eyes were bloodshot. Madeline, I don't know what's real anymore. There it was. The coward's shield. The refusal to pick a side. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just said, then you haven't been paying attention. I walked away, leaving my tea unmade and him standing in his confusion. That night, Mireille and I met in the basement, laptop open, footage playing again and again, Celeste's hand swapping the files, Martin's cold efficiency, Sylvia's quiet orchestration. It wasn't just incriminating. It was damning. Callum joined us not long after. He looked shaken, pale. They've done this before, he said suddenly, breaking the silence. I remembered something. Years ago, when one of Dad's business partners tried to sue him. There were documents then, too. Evidence that just happened to show up when needed. He ran a hand through his hair. They protect themselves at all costs. I thought it was just a legal strategy. Now I think they've destroyed people. Quietly. Cleanly. Mireille was already uploading the footage to a private link. If they find out you have this, Callum began. They won't, she cut in. Not yet. The next 2 days were a cold waiting game. The Crosses were planning something. I could feel it in the way they moved. Conversations halted the moment I entered a room. Celeste began acting unusually sweet toward Callum. Martin asked Cole to join him for a walk every afternoon, strategizing, no doubt. Even Sylvia made an attempt at warmth, offering me chamomile tea like nothing had happened. I declined. Politely. They weren't ready for what was coming. Not yet. I could have gone to the police. I could have sent the footage to a lawyer, a journalist, blasted it on Reddit or to the press. But something in me held back, not because I was unsure, but because I wanted them to feel the floor crack under their feet. I wanted to see the panic in their carefully curated lives. So I waited. And planned. And listened. And one evening, as the snow began to fall again over the mountains and the house sat in its eerie, fraudulent peace, I heard Martin say to Sylvia as they walked past the den, "We'll give her one more day to make a mistake. Then we bury it." I didn't move. Didn't flinch. Because by then, it wasn't me making the mistake. It was them. The morning everything finally broke, the air in the house had that strange stillness, the kind you get right before a summer thunderstorm, even though it was winter in Aspen. Everyone was gathered in the dining room for what Sylvia had dubbed a farewell brunch, although there wasn't much warmth to it. Cole was quiet, picking at his food. Celeste was scrolling through her phone, feigning interest in an avocado tartine. Martin was sipping espresso, his jaw tight. Sylvia wore her usual icy composure like a designer shawl, flawless, calculated, dangerous. I sat across from them, dressed in the same cozy sweater I'd worn on the first day. Mireille sat beside me, calm as ever. Callum hadn't spoken much that morning. He was watching his father now, his eyes darker than I'd ever seen them. The conversation was stiff, performative. Like everyone knew something was coming, but no one wanted to be the first to flinch. Then Sylvia put her napkin down and folded her hands. "Well," she began, all sharp smiles and false sincerity. "Before everyone heads off, we need to have a small conversation about something rather sensitive. Here it comes." Cole looked up, eyes narrowing. "Now?" "It can't wait," Sylvia said. "It's about Madeline." She turned to me, tilting her head in the way you might to a stubborn dog. "There have been some troubling developments concerning certain digital activity and financial records. Documents that suggest an attempt to access the Cross-Trust Fund." Celeste chimed in, her tone full concerned. "We didn't want to believe it, of course. But the evidence," I held up a hand. "No need to continue," I said, gently. "Actually, I have something I'd like to show everyone." I pulled out my phone, opened the file I had preloaded, and tapped play. The screen was small, but the silence in the room made every second louder. There it was, footage of Celeste entering the study, pulling out the hidden drawer, removing the original file, replacing it with the doctored one. Martin's face appeared next, then Sylvia's. When the video ended, no one spoke. Celeste went pale. Martin's face drained of color, the coffee cup in his hand frozen midair. Sylvia blinked once. Then again. Cole's voice cracked the silence. "What the hell is this?" Mireille spoke next. "Calm. Clear. This is a full recording of your family fabricating evidence to frame Madeline for financial misconduct. It's backed up in 3 separate cloud locations, with time-stamped metadata. Oh, and Callum and I have reviewed the original documents. We've also looped in a family lawyer, just in case anyone had creative ideas about handling this quietly." Sylvia recovered first. "You invaded our privacy." "That room is, your guest was being framed," I interrupted. "And your son's wife was being thrown under the bus to protect your status. I think privacy was forfeited the moment you created a folder with my name on it labeled contingency plan." Cole turned to his mother, stunned. "Is this true?" Sylvia's silence was all the answer he needed. "I didn't know," he said to me, standing. "Maddie, I swear, I know," I said, "and I meant it. But you also didn't ask." He sat back down, shame on his face. Callum looked at his father. "Is this what we are now? We bury people when they don't fit the brand?" Martin's mouth opened, but no words came. Mireille cleared her throat and pulled out a sleek black envelope. "We'll be delivering copies of this footage to legal counsel on Monday. That's for our protection. But we're also prepared to go public if anything happens to me or Madeline. Financially. Legally. Socially." Celeste finally found her voice, stammering, "You can't do this to us." "Actually," I said, "you already did it to yourselves." Then I stood. The silence was rich. Heavy. Real. I turned to Cole. "I'm going to a hotel tonight. My flight is in the morning. We can talk when you're ready to be someone who doesn't sit quietly while his family tries to ruin his wife." He opened his mouth. Closed it. I didn't wait for a response. Outside, the air was brisk, clean, and so much lighter than anything inside that house. Mireille came out right behind me, arms crossed against the cold, but her eyes warm with relief. "You were brilliant there," she said. I exhaled, letting go of months, years, of trying to fit into a world that never wanted me. So were you. Callum came out next, keys in hand. We're leaving tonight. Mire booked us a place in Santa Fe. He looked at me. If you ever want to disappear and make art in the desert, you're welcome. I smiled. Tempting. He gave me a look of quiet gratitude. You saved more than yourself in there. Back in Madison, things didn't go back to normal. They got better. I filed for separation 2 weeks later. Cole didn't contest it. He sent a few messages, asked for forgiveness, and offered explanations. But by then, I had outgrown the version of me that used to wait for him to change. I started over in Door County. Small cottage. Clean air. A job at a local press that appreciated my eye for good stories. Mire and I talk regularly. Sometimes, we just send each other quiet updates, photos of soup, sunrises, pages we're reading. One day, I got a postcard from Santa Fe. A gallery opening. Callum's photography. The note read, "Some roots are poisonous. Some roots grow back stronger. We picked the right ones." I hung it on my fridge. And smiled. Because I didn't just survive what they did. I dismantled it. With proof, patience, and people who finally stood by me. And I never set foot in that basement again.